She hears your story. She carries it with her. When she sees you, she truly sees you. She truly sees you. She is the best among us.
That was California congressional candidate Latifah Simon speaking about her longtime friend and mentor, Vice President Harris, at the Democratic Convention in Chicago on Wednesday. Simon was one of the many former colleagues of VP Harris who shared their experience with her as both public servant and a person. This week, she joins us now to talk about it. Ms. Simon, thank you, first of all, for joining us. I want to first ask you about your very moving speech. And we both had the honor and privilege to address the crowd at the convention. What are your thoughts about the mood in the arena as Democrats came together to nominate your friend and mentor, Kamala Harris?
Well, hello, Reverend. It is so wonderful to see you. That energy inside that space and that place was something I actually never experienced before, ever. And I've been to a couple of conventions. There was joy, there was music, the diversity, the diaspora of the United States was in that space. It was beautiful.
Now, you've worked with Vice President Harris for about 4 years while she was the San Francisco District Attorney. From that experience, what can you tell us about her, not only as a prosecutor and a boss, but as a person? Tell us about her as a person.
Well, Rev, I actually knew what we call the DA Harris a bit before she got elected. She came into San Francisco as someone who had been a prosecutor in Oakland for 10 years prior, but she came into San Francisco to work with other advocates before she got elected to stop the pattern and practice of young kids who were being bought and sold on the streets. They were being charged, arrested, and jailed. And those were girls that I was working with. And she really wanted to have folks understand these children weren't child prostitutes. They were being raped and they were victims of sex trafficking. I got to know her that way. She ran for DA. She asked me to come and work in her office and build a reentry unit. Rev, she was the toughest boss that I've ever had and the best leader that I've ever worked with. She expects the best of you. If you're going to work for the people under Kamala Harris, you're going to have to come early and you're going to have to leave late. She is a phenomenal leader. I respect her so dearly.
Now, many Americans are taking a fresh look at Vice President Harris since President Biden stepped aside and she was catapulted to the top of the Democratic ticket. Why do you think she's the right person for this historical moment?
Okay, we're talking about somebody who was raised, I'm literally 5 blocks from her house where I live right now. I'm in Oakland, California, raised by a single mother who was working at a public college, sent those kids to school every night, had folks from the community pick them up and drop them off. She goes to undergrad to Howard University, goes to a public law school, dedicates her life, her early years, to supporting victims of sexual assault. Are you kidding me? She rises worse day in and day out to the White House. There is nobody more set to take this country in the direction than Kamala Divvy Harris, is someone who's worked for her. I know that she loves our families. Literally, like I said in my speech, Reverend, day in and day out, you had Black and brown mothers lining up who had lost their children, waiting only to speak to then DA Harris because they knew that she cared so deeply about our communities. It kills me to look at the stuff that says the opposite. I've worked with her. I know this woman.
Now, having said that, how do you react to the attacks that she's a communist, a socialist, and other things that they've attacked her saying? How do you react when you hear these attacks?
You know, it's pretty ridiculous. What Kamala is the epitome of the American story. She is a child of immigrants who came to this country for a better life. And, you know, you heard from Maya Harris. You heard from folks who know her best, who grew up with her. Kamala is a consummate professional who deeply believes in hard work. You get it done. You fall down. You try again. We created a program for second chances based on that very understanding. Let's actually start looking at fact instead of, these crazy conspiracy theories about a woman so well vested to do what she's been doing, and that's lead.
Now, as we mentioned, you are running for Congress in California's 12th district to succeed the great Barbara Lee, who I've worked with, and Barbara Lee, who's decided not to seek re-election after 26 excellent years in the House of Representatives. We'd like to have you and your Democratic opponent on in the future to talk about the issues. But can you talk a little bit today about the significant legacy of Congresswoman Barbara Lee, which she leaves both in the district and on Capitol Hill?
Wow, Miss Lee is just a phenomenal woman, and I'm so happy to have her support in my race. She, as well, has been a mentor to me for 2 decades. Ron Dellums and Barbara Lee set the standard so clear for this district that centers Oakland. We care about really what the nation cares about. People being able to put food on their tables, folks being able to afford a home, put braces on their teeth and send their kids to school. But I got to tell you something so special about this district. This is a district which is 98% Democrat, and we believe in peace. Barbara Lee has been consistent in her understanding that to do right is to be about those literally tenets of the civil rights movement. And we were, again, agents of peaceful struggle. I will follow in her footsteps. You know what you're going to get out of me if you've known what you've seen out of Miss Barbara and Ron Dellums. She is a living legacy, and she is nowhere near done. She is going to be working with me, and she's going to have an international footprint. She was the first person to call for a ceasefire on that floor, and I stand right with her.
I remember, among many other things I did with Congresswoman Lee, we were both in South Africa for the first election in 1994 that they'd ever had there, and we were observers together when Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress became the ruling party, and he president of South Africa.